That's, if someone asks you for your credit score, they're most likely asking for that one right there. So how do you find out what your credit score is? You can get it at the same time to get your report, and then each agency is a different score, but with, the FICO, it'll cost about $5 to $10, per time. So again, it's, not something you do every day either. It's when you need it to get loans or other stuff like that. So this is how they break down determine your credit score. The largest category here is payment history. So, whether or not you've paid your credit card bills on time, your other utilities, your lease for your apartment or your home mortgage, that's like the biggest factor in determining whether you're reliable and whether or not you get a high or low credit score. The next section, owed compared to limits. That may seem kind of confusing, but pretty much talking about, whether or not, if you had a $1,000 limit on your credit card, do you only use a little bit and pay it off right away, or do you use $900 of your $1,000 limit and take forever to pay off, and maybe not even pay it off? They want to know, do you procrastinate, or do you just spend a little amount and do it, in a better way? Next largest section, length of history. Like I was talking about, someone just fresh out getting a credit card isn't going to have a better credit score than someone who's been in the game for a long time, because they would have shown that they're reliable. But when you're just coming in, they have no clue. You could be, the most careful person in the world, or you could not care at all. And then the last two, new accounts and types of accounts. It's going to look a lot more impressive if you have not just credit card bills that you're paying off, but mortgage and car loan bills as well. And if you're able to do it successfully, it's going to be a lot more impressive. You'll say, okay, they not only can do a credit card bill, but they can pay off their home loan and their car loan at the same time and do it all in the right way. Okay, so what if you had a good score, but then you made some mistakes? Well, you start out at 780, okay? Let's just say you start out right here at 780. So let's just say, it's Christmas shopping and you max out your credit card. That's going to drop you down, 25, 45 points. You say, now that may not seem like that much, but, after, if you do that a couple times, it'll start to add up. Okay, how about late payment on your credit card bill? That's going to drop you up to 100 points there. Drop the paper. So, that drops you down to the 600s. And, 700s, high 700s and above, those are great credit scores. Top 600, that's, that's pretty good. Pretty good. But then you go to the next one here. You have debt settlement. So, let's just say, you had a $2,000 debt, and you go and tell the person, there's no way I can pay this off. It's like, okay, well, you will have to pay $1,500. Well, if you do that, it's, you may be getting a deal for that, but it's going to hurt your credit score, taking another 100 points off, down to that mid-600 range. And then let's just say, the economy crashed like it did, you just got that new house, and now you realize you can't make those payments anymore, and you get foreclosed on. Well, that's going to drop you quite a bit more, 150, 160 points. That drops you down to low 600s. Then you get into the, fair, close to poor range of the credit, spectrum. Then lastly, you can't pay anything off. You have to declare bankruptcy. And so that's going to drop 200, almost 250 points, and that drops you into the 500s. This is a bad credit score right here. Anything in the 500s is not good. You're not going to get good rates or anything like that. Okay, so why does it matter? Why would we want to, have a good credit score? So let's just say you're going to get a smart car, and it's going to be $20,000, and you're going to pay it off in 3 years. Okay, so let's take a look. So you were really good. You had great credit score and stuff. You're going to be paying 6% on your interest, only about $600 a month, for only a total of the interest being about $2,000. So it'll only add a $2,000 onto that. Well, let's go down here to the bottom where we have the worst one. Well, let's see, you were really bad with your credit. Your interest rate's going to be 3 times as much, and your monthly payment's going to be like almost $130 more. Now, okay, $130 isn't exactly cheap. You're like, okay, it's not too bad. But then you look at how much you're going to pay at the end. That's going to be like $5,000 difference just because you weren't able to make your little payments on other things. It's going to affect how much your car is going to cost you. Okay, so then just to kind of jump over the loans a bit while we're there. So you want to buy a house. It's going to cost $200,000, and you go 6% interest. Well, right now a good percent is probably 4% because the market's a little bit down, but in an average good economy, 6% is a pretty good rate. So, it's going to take you 30 years to pay off. You're going to have to spend about just over $1,000 a month to pay that off in 30 years. So you look, after 5 years, you have $71,000 paid. Okay, that seems pretty good, almost halfway, right? Well, actually, Only 13,000 of that came off the 200. This came all off of the interest. So, most of your payments going towards that interest. You go down here to the 30 years, finally got it done. And you ended up spending over $400,000 on a $200,000 house. So it shows that the interest there, you paid more in interest than the house was even worth. So, it's kind of scary to look at when you plan it out and do it in the long run. Okay, I'm sure you guys have all heard of, like the payday loan kind of things, get your cash now, get your paycheck ahead of time. They still are pretty dangerous, but they used to be super dangerous when, they could charge any interest rate they wanted. So, you could go in to get your paycheck of $700 early, forget to make your payments, and at the end of the year, you're up to $1,400 in, stuff you have to pay back. So these you really want to avoid. Recently they've put limits on it and stuff, but it's still, an insane amount of interest you have to pay back. So that's the kind of stuff you only do like in a dire emergency as a last resort, like only if someone's about to die or life's on the line, you need some cash. It's not something, you do just at any time. Okay, so how about credit cards? That seems kind of related to talking about credit. Well, when you're going to get a credit card, you go to college, check into your dorm, look at your mailbox, and you have a stack of 10 credit card applications there because they want you to get your credit card. If you're going to get one, how do you choose which one's the right one for you? Well, there's a couple things you want to look at. You want to look at the interest rates. They're all going to say, 0% interest rate for the 6 months, but then you go into the 5th paragraph, and right in the middle, there's a footnote that's like 4-point font. You can barely even read. And it says, well, actually, if you mess up at all during the 6 months, then we're going to bump it up to 18%. So you really got to watch out for the credit card companies because they'll slip in little things like that all over the place. Also, any fees that they might have. If they have fees for not making minimum payments, or if they just have monthly fees, you might want to try to avoid those. And I'm sure you've all seen the movies where the college girl gets 10 credit cards and she goes around all the department stores and shops and shops and shops. You don't want to do that. Besides just getting tons of debt on you, by doing that, it's going to hurt your credit score because people are going to see that and they're going to be like, oh, that is the girl that goes around and does that. So, it's going to hurt your credit score. Not only are you going to get a lot of debt, too. So let's just say you do have, 2 credit cards, and one's at 18%, one's at 9%. Which one should you pay off first? 18. Yeah, 18 is right. Because that's at the highest, higher interest rate. Which means, if you let that one sit there, it's going to be costing, that's going to be getting double the money that the 9% would that you're going to have to pay off. So you want to pay off the higher one first. And then finally, have a plan to pay for your purchases. So let's just say that a dance coming up in 4 months, and you want to get a $200 dress or a tux or something like that. Instead of just waiting until the week of and then swiping your credit card and having to pay that off for a couple months afterward, you should plan for it ahead of time. Just budget like $5 a week or something simple like that. Where so by the time you get to the dance, it's not going to be $200. You'll probably have most of it, if not all of it, paid off. And anything else you do need to run on your credit card, it'll be so small that the interest, if any, won't be that much. Okay, so what would happen if I just made the minimum payment? Because a lot of credit cards will say, well, you only have to pay $20 a month. It's easy. Just don't worry about it. It'll just be a little bit every time. You pay it off eventually. It'll be good. Well, the minimum payment is only the amount that you have to pay in order to avoid a fee. So, if you were a little bit under, they might slap a big fee on it. So, that's only a minimum amount. So nowadays, credit card companies have to say how long it's going to take you if you pay that minimum fee. Because before they wouldn't, and people would just keep paying it and not really worry about it until they got to a couple years down the road and had to pay it all. Yeah.
Does that lower your credit score if you just keep paying the minimum?
No.